And now we're welcome to the program Martin O'Malley, former governor of Maryland. You may recall he was Maryland governor from 2007 to 2015, had a long run as governor, and he also served before that as the mayor of Baltimore from 1999 to 2007. His new book is called Smarter Government, How to Govern for Results in the Information Age. It lays out how modern technology and a new way of collaborative leadership can be combined for life-saving and life-giving results. Welcome to the program, Governor. Glad to have you with us. Why did you decide to do this book at this time?
Well, Mr. Rather, I decided to write this book because democracy is in crisis, and the crisis is democracy itself. Whether a government of, by, and for the people can still deliver for the people. I was fortunate, blessed, lucky, if you can call it that, to have been tipped to the insights that we have new technologies now that no self-governing people have ever had before. Information technologies that allow us to model, to measure, and to map dynamic human problems in ways with some probabilistic certainty and that give us insights that we've never had before. But what we need is not new technologies. We need new socio-technical habits of leadership, habits of management that allow us to actually get things done, whether those things are improving public safety in a crime-beset city, or whether it's restoring the health of the waters of the largest estuary in North America, the Chesapeake Bay. I believe that we're actually seeing in local governments across our country the dawn of this new and more effective and better way of governing. It's just kind of hard to see right now, given what's going on at the national level.
Well, now, what do you mean by that? What's going on at the national level? You're talking about the presidency of Donald Trump and the Trump administration, or is it something broader and covering more than that?
I think it's broader than that, and I think it began before Donald Trump's presidency. What I'm talking about is the declining levels of trust that most Americans express in the ability of their national government to do the right thing or to get things done. Contrast that, if you will, though, with the truth that local governments and cities across the United States, with some exception, you see a rising level of trust. People are seeing their governments actually use information technologies, using words like customer service, and that's a new shift. You can always tell when you're listening to a more recently elected mayor, they use the word customer rather than the word constituent. They adopt the new rules for this new information age and democracy of openness and transparency versus the old rule that said that leaders don't share information unless they're forced to, file a Freedom of Information Act request if you want that information. All of that's out the window. Nothing is possible in a democracy without trust. And mayors across the United States realize that, and they're using these new technologies to make their cities safer places and to deliver the things that make a republic worth having.
And we're talking, folks, with Martin O'Malley, former Democratic governor of Maryland, former mayor of Baltimore, one of the more experienced political government leaders in the country. Governor, you ran for president in 2016 against Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. What did you take away from that experience?
I took away from it, Vice President Gore asked me afterwards, what surprised you about the experience? I said, I wasn't surprised by the anger out there, its depth or its breadth. I was surprised at the insistence and the patience of it. In other words, 4 years ago, it just felt like so many of my fellow Americans wanted to pull the car into the angry lane, toss it into park, and throw the keys out the window. They weren't moving until they broke it. And let's hope that's changed. And like all things, everything changes, right? But in that moment, people were so angry they didn't care whether they voted for a sledgehammer or a flamethrower. They wanted to break the table of democracy. And now that we've broken it, we have to put it back together. So I don't know how much time you have to unpack all of it, but I think the bottom line is that the future is always a story. And in the absence of a more life-giving story about where our country's headed with more opportunity and greater justice for all, people default to the politics of fear, build the wall, pull up the drawbridge, and it's not in keeping with the more noble character of what it means to be an American. And my hope is that we're able to recapture that fearless American sense that we're not the slaves of circumstance, we're the masters. We make our own event, and we can make a better day for not only our kids, but kids throughout the entire planet. And that's the America I love, and I hope we recapture it.
Well, Governor Martin O'Malley, former governor of Maryland, this conversation we're having this morning takes place against the backdrop of the impeachment trial of President Donald Trump in the Senate. As you watch this Senate trial unfold, what's foremost in your mind, Governor?
What's foremost in my mind is whether or not we're going to continue to be a nation of law, a nation where no one is above the law. In your own noble service as a journalist, you had to confront a president that felt that he was above the law, that the FBI worked for him, that the rules didn't apply to him. And we're at that juncture again. Hard to believe it's happening so recently after Watergate in historic terms, but that's where we are. I was glad to see earlier today one of the news outlets had released a poll that said that 69% of Americans are in favor of a fair trial with witnesses. And that gives me some hope here. I don't know what eventually how this process will roll, but I do know this. I know that most Americans understand that if there are no witnesses and there is no evidence, then there is no trial. So that's going to be a hard truth for Mitch McConnell or any of those that would like to rig this event to get around. The American people understand if they have to go to court on their own kids' speeding ticket or their own, if there's no witness, there's no trial. So I hope that our leaders in the Senate, enough of them, will rise to this occasion. Will rise not only keeping faith with the founders, but more importantly, keeping faith with our kids. You know, what the hell kind of country are we going to be if we allow to stand this aberration that the president is above the law? That cannot be allowed to stand.
What do you say to those on the other side of the argument you just laid out who say, look, it's very dangerous to get in the habit of trying to remove from office presidents who've been elected, and that we don't want to fall into the pattern of every time one side loses an election, they set out to impeach the president. You've heard that argument. What do you make of that argument? And are we in danger of doing that?
Yeah, I've heard that argument, but I believe that there are much greater dangers that the Republic faces right now. The danger of soliciting foreign intervention in our elections, the danger of withholding military aid to a country that's in a hot war against Russian aggression in exchange for political favors and a press announcement that designed to hurt Donald Trump's potential opponent. There are great dangers to the Republic. This is not something that we should ever do lightly as a people. We've only done it 3 times in our history, albeit once was one of those 3 times is under Bill Clinton's presidency. We've also had some. We could talk at length about other aberrations in our democracy, like swearing in the person that didn't win the majority of the people's vote. But I think that the danger here is clear and present from a president who believes he is above the law and a president who is willing to sacrifice even America's security in order to solicit foreign help in American election. That cannot be allowed to stand. It has to be confronted. and I'm proud of our House of Representatives for stepping up, and I hope I will be equally proud of a few members of the once proud party of Lincoln. I think there's enough courage in the hearts of some of those United States senators in the Republican Party to step up and do the right thing for their country, regardless of party.
Well, that's obviously your hope, but is that your expectation?
I believe that if you can or if you can't, you're probably right. And so I'm going to continue to believe that, however many twists and turns this takes, and it might take the American people having to address this danger at the next election. But one way or the other, it cannot be allowed to stand that the president is above the law, or that foreign intervention in our elections is just the way it is. It's illegal. It has long been illegal, and for good reason. And so either the people are going to correct this at the ballot box, or our representatives are going to correct it. But it will be corrected. Of that, I have no doubt.
Well, Governor O'Malley, former Governor Martin O'Malley, we're talking with here, folks. Let me end this section pretty much as we began it. I asked earlier on why you decided to write this book. I want to give you an opportunity to talk about what do you hope readers will take away from the book? What do you want readers to have as the major takeaway from your book, Smarter Government?
Yeah, but what I hope readers take away from this is an understanding that we have never had better technologies, better tools for governing ourselves well and effectively, whether it's combating climate change, making our cities safer, or building an economy that works for all of us. We've never had better tools. What we need are new socio-technical habits of leadership, habits of management. It's happening in cities all across America with newly elected mayors. It's about to start happening with newly elected governors, and it promises a rebirth and a reinvigoration of our own democracy. We don't have to despair. There are better days coming if we make it so as Americans.
And what do you say as we go out now? What do you say to critics, and there are always critics, who have concerns that a data-driven approach, especially when it comes to policing, is dangerous for the country and as a whole because it supersedes, this is their argument, it supersedes individual freedoms and constitutional rights. What about that argument?
Yeah, that's not been my experience, and that's not the broader experience of our democracy thus far. I mean, no people should ever give up their privacy in exchange for their security. The Constitution and constitutional policing is still the order of the day. But the new data and the ability to identify patterns allows us never to lose sight of the individual, and it also informs those decisions. I mean, we've come a long way with gut and hunch and intuition as a country. And with regard to your example of policing, since the beginning of our country, racial injustice has been intertwined with law enforcement, and that is an injustice we have to continue to work on and to work out. The data and the evidence will help us do that. It will accelerate our progress, provided that we're open and we're honest and we're transparent, not only in how we police, but also in how we police our police, how we discipline our police, how we supervise our police. And it's also the great hope, Dan, for being able to reverse climate change. We know that we're pumping too much carbon into the atmosphere. We have the technology not only to stop doing that, but to create an interaction with the other living systems of this planet that draw more carbon out of the atmosphere every day than we pump into it. We know what needs to be done. We've never had better technical tools for doing it. It's time for us as thinking Americans to lead the way again and show the world how.
Martin O'Malley, former governor of Maryland, former mayor of Baltimore. His new book is Smarter Government, How to Govern for Results in the Information Age. Lays out how modern technology and a new way of collaborative leadership can be combined for life-saving and life-giving results at almost every level of government. Thanks for being with us this morning, Governor. We appreciate it very much.